Welcome to a new episode of Rich and Raw. Get ready for powerful insights and real strategies to elevate your wealth and impact fast. It's time to get Esther-sized. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. We're on Chapter 6. Hi, Megan.
Good morning.
Ready to rock and roll?
Awesome. Science of Getting Rich, Chapter 6, How Riches Come to You. When I say that you do not have to drive sharp bargains, I do not mean that you do not have to drive any bargains at all, or that you are above the necessity for having any dealings with your fellow men.
Good point.
I mean that you will not need to deal with them unfairly. You do not have to get something for nothing, but can give to every man more than you take from him. That feels good.
Which makes the ethics up to us. But I do think that in general, I have been taught or trained or indoctrinated to believe that you have to like shortchange somebody or get a deal in order to get ahead. And he's saying that's absolutely not true.
And what do you mean by it's the ethics of everybody? Because I feel like people are like, oh, business ethics. Everyone should do it the same way.
Right. Well, the ethics would be like the pizza analogy, right? Where somebody wants to sell you their pizza for way less than what they can afford to. So you have to think about that. How does that relate to their sustainability? So cheating somebody out of their own ignorance isn't a better way to go. Right? And you see that all the time with cars. And like people don't know how valuable their junk is in their yard. Right? But does that mean you should give them the top dollar? No, you should still make it profitable. So that's why I say ethics. So now you have to evaluate and think about, what does it mean if this guy finds out later that I bought his car for $1,000? It's a classic and it's worth, 10 grand, right? Even though I might put 5 grand into it and sell it for 30,
yeah,
which isn't bad, right? You got to think about like, are you harming another human being by taking advantage of their ignorance or their situation?
That's so interesting. It makes me think when I was clearing out all my dad's property and we had a camper trailer and this lady really wanted it for $500. And I was like, you know what? We're never going to get to it. I'd love to keep it. I can't do it. I am tapped out. I have no resources to do anything with it. $500. No one else has wanted it. Take it.
Yeah.
And what do you know? Like 3 weeks later, I find out that they put new tires on it, cleaned it up, and they turned around and sold it to other people for like $2,500.
Wow.
So I was conflicted, but I'm also like, I never would have had the capacity to turn it around to make that profit.
Right. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't benefit from that either, because that's an exchange, right? So if something's worth a certain amount of money, but it's worth 5 times if I put money, energy, and effort into it, I shouldn't be thinking about that when, you know what I mean? When I think about what to pay that person. But I do think people take advantage too. And that's what he's saying. Like we have this belief that you have to take advantage of it. It's against the person in order to be rich.
Well, let's talk about Airbnbs, right? Like every urban place you go to, there's so many people that are buying old houses and cleaning them up and making them desirable and renting them out. And then people say, well, that's just going to raise the rent for everybody who can't afford it.
Right.
These are very real, immediate dynamics that we deal with. I hate going to a city and not being able to find anywhere to stay for less than, a few $100 a night, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, the people that have invested that time and energy in something that people didn't really want or care about before, they've also elevated the value of my desire to stay in that place.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage and work out.
Yeah, it is. And it's uncomfortable. But I think the main point of what he's saying is that you don't need to be taking advantage of people or getting something for less than it's worth in order to get ahead, in order to have abundance.
What? You mean people who make money might actually be well-intentioned, positive, honest people that we should support?
Yeah, and you know what? In the insurance industry, haven't we run into that for sure?
Yeah.
It's like, are you doing the right thing for the customer? Because that will come back to you. And if you do the wrong thing for the customer because you make a higher commission on a different subpar product, it's going to come back to you too.
And it affects everybody in the industry. So what are you actually costing everybody at that point?
That's an abuse of capitalism, really. Capitalism is an awesome thing as long as you don't abuse it. I suppose socialism is too if you don't abuse it. The
Yeah.
problem is there's definite differences between the two.
Easy.
Capitalism motivates you and gets you moving, where there's a sedentariness to socialism. That's a whole nother conversation, but I'm sure he's going to address it.
All right. You cannot give every man more in cash market value than you take from him, but you can give him more in use value than the cash value of the thing you take from him. The paper, ink, and other material in this book may not be worth the money you pay for it, but if the ideas suggested by it bring you thousands of dollars, you have not been wronged by those who sold it to you. They have given you a great use value for a small cash value. Let us suppose that I own a picture by one of the great artists, which, in any civilized community, is worth thousands of dollars. I take it to Baffin Ray and, by salesmanship, induce an Eskimo to give a bundle of furs worth $500 for it. I have really wronged him, for he has no use for the picture. It has no use value to him. It will not add to his life. But suppose I give him a gun worth $50 for his furs, then he has made a good bargain. He has use for the gun. It will get him many more furs and much food. It will add to his life in every way. It will make him rich.
There you go. That's ethics. That's thinking about the other person. That's using compassion and empathy to try on what's going to happen to this other person if I buy the item or if I don't buy the item.
And
I
what's
ran
the
into this when I went to this China or secondhand store. I was telling you about that coffee pot, that
Yep,
porcelain coffee pot. I
yep,
had to really put a lot of effort into finding out the value of it. But for me to give that lady 20 bucks helped her because she didn't need it anymore and she wanted to move it because it's so big and it was going to, could use its value by falling off the table too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, just another example.
When you rise from the competitive to the creative plane, you can scan your business transactions very strictly. And if you are selling any man anything which does not add more to his life than the thing he gives you in exchange, you can afford to stop it. You do not have to beat anybody in business. And if you are in a business which does beat people, get out of it at once.
I like that.
That would change a
You
lot right
are in a
there.
business that does what? What was the word?
It does beat people.
Beat people, like beat them out of stuff. Boy, you could take that a lot of different ways, right?
How many people stay in their jobs and they know it's not a job and they're not
Yeah.
happy with what the impact it's having, but they don't want to move, they don't want to retrain, they don't want to
Yeah.
recertify, so they just keep doing it even though viscerally they don't feel in alignment with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tough
Cool.
one. Give every man more in use value than you take from him in cash value. Then you are adding to the life of the world by every business transaction. If you have people working for you, you must take from them more in cash value than you pay them in wages, but you can so organize your business that it will be filled with the principle of advancement, and so that each employee who wishes to do so may advance a little every day. You can make your business do for your employees what this book is doing for you. You can so conduct your business that it will be a sort of ladder by which every employee who will take the trouble may climb to riches, him or herself, and if given the opportunity, he will do so. And if given the opportunity, he will not do so. It is not your fault. And finally, because you are to cause the creation of your riches from formless substance, which permeates all your environment, it does not follow that they are to take shape from the atmosphere and come into being before your eyes. If you want a sewing machine, for instance, I do not mean to tell you that you are to impress the thought of a sewing machine on thinking substance until the machine is formed without hands in the room where you sit or elsewhere. But if you want a sewing machine, hold the mental image of it with the most positive certainty that it is being made or is on its way to you. After once forming the thought, have the most absolute and unquestioning faith that the sewing machine is coming. Never think of it or speak of it in any way than as being sure to arrive. Claim it as already yours.
Like the tea house, right?
Yes,
I
yes,
visualize it every day.
yeah, yeah.
And,
Well, and
and
it's great because it opens you up to all the other opportunities that
yeah,
fill out that vision.
yeah. And I love how he says you get out of the whatever that field is into the creative field, the competitive versus what was the word he used?
Um,
Creative field is a whole different plane of existence than the field that, and we have to look it up. We have to figure out what he,
I love that.
yeah.
It will be brought to you by the power of the supreme intelligence acting upon the minds of men. If you live in Maine, it may be that a man will be brought from Texas or Japan to engage in some transaction which will result in your getting what you want. If so, the whole matter will be as much to that man's advantage as it is to yours. Do not forget for a moment that the thinking substance is through all, in all, communicating with all, and can influence all. The desire of thinking substance for fuller life and better living has caused the creation of all the sewing machines already made, and it can cause the creation of millions more, and will, whenever men set it in motion by desire and faith and by acting in a certain way. You can certainly have a sewing machine in your house, and it is just as certain that you can have any other thing or things which you want and which you will use for the advancement of your own life and the lives of others. You need not hesitate about asking largely. It is your Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom, said Jesus. Original substance wants to live all that is possible in you and wants you to have all that you can or will use for the living of the most abundant life. If you fix upon your consciousness the fact that the desire you feel for the possession of riches is one with the desire of omnipotence for more complete expression, your faith becomes invincible.
We'll say that again. Read that again.
If you fix upon your consciousness the fact that the desire you feel for the possession of riches is one with the desire of omnipotence for more complete expression, your faith becomes invincible.
Wow. So that's like really looking at your why.
Yeah.
Right? If my why is to expand who I am in the world for the benefit of all beings, that's a whole different deal than just being completely separate and self-absorbed of what it is I think I want.
That's the crux of the capitalism and where people have struggled with it.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah. Because if you're trying to insulate yourself in your own comfort, what are you doing for anyone else?
Yeah. But I do think very successful people do that. I mean, do the other, which
Yep.
is to think about
Yep.
their responsibility of how they bring people on and what's going on with their life.
Yep.
And that is the value that they're bringing that's separate from what they're getting on an hourly wage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
They care about the person.
Yep.
And their life and what's going on and how
Yep.
you're surviving.
Yep. Once I saw a little boy sitting at a piano and vainly trying to bring harmony out of the keys. And I saw that he was grieved and provoked by his inability to play real music. I asked him the cause of his vexation, and he answered, I can feel the music in me, but I can't make my hands go right. The music in him was the urge of original substance, containing all the possibilities of all life. All that there is of music was seeking expression through the child. God, the one substance, is trying to live and do and enjoy things through humanity. He is saying, I want hands to build wonderful structures, to play divine harmonies, to paint glorious pictures. I want feet to run my errands, eyes to see my beauties, tongues to tell mighty truths and to sing marvelous songs, and so on. All that there is of possibility is seeking expression through men. God wants those who can play music to have pianos and every other instrument, and to have the means to cultivate their talents to the fullest extent. He wants those who can appreciate beauty to be able to surround themselves with beautiful things. He wants those who can discern truth to have every opportunity to travel and observe. He wants those who can appreciate dress to be beautifully clothed, and those who can appreciate good food to be luxuriously fed. He wants all these things because it is himself that enjoys and appreciates them. It is God who wants to play and sing and enjoy beauty and proclaim truth and wear fine clothes and eat good foods. It is God that worketh in you to will and to do, said Paul. The desire you feel for riches is the infinite seeking to express himself in you as he sought to find expression in the little boy at the piano. So you need not hesitate to ask largely.
Aww.
Your part is to focalize and express the desire to God.
Aww.
This is a difficult point with most people. They retain something of the old idea that poverty and self-sacrifice are pleasing to God. They look upon poverty as a part of the plan, a necessity of nature. They have the idea that God has finished his work and made all that he can make, and that the majority of men must stay poor because there is not enough to go around. They hold to so much of this erroneous thought that they feel ashamed to ask for wealth, and they try not to want more than a very modest competence, just enough to make them fairly comfortable. I grew up in that.
I
know
grew up in that too. You're supposed to be poor so that you can be a good person.
Well, if you just resign yourself to it, then you can find grace and okayness with it, right? I recall now the case of one student who was told that he must get in mind a clear picture of the things he desired so that the creative thought of them might be impressed on formless substance. He was a very poor man, living in a rented house and having only what he earned from day to day, and he could not grasp the fact that all wealth was his. So, after thinking the matter over, he decided that he might reasonably ask for a new rug for the floor of his best room and an anthracite coal stove to heat the house during the cold weather. Following the instructions given in this book, he obtained these things in a few months, and then it dawned upon him that he had not asked enough. He went through the house in which he lived and planned all the improvements he would like to make in it. He mentally added a bay window here and a room there, until it was complete in his mind as his ideal home, and then he planned its furnishings. Holding the whole picture in his mind, he began living in a certain way and moving toward what he wanted, and he owns the house now and is rebuilding it after the form of his mental image. And now, with still larger faith, he is going on to get greater things. It has been unto him according to his faith, and it is so with you and with all of us.
Yay! Man, doesn't that make you feel better?
Yes.
Somebody to validate that it's okay that I desire more. And also someone to explain why it is that it feels bad to even verbalize what it is I desire. Right? That's why I like the dream weaving group so much, because everybody's okay with you talking about these crazy dreams. And I didn't even know how much I didn't share my dreams with people because well, how are you going to do that? Oh, yeah. Well, where are you going to get the money for that? Now you got to be realistic. No, you don't. You shouldn't be realistic, actually. You just need to back up what you're saying with action.
And to speak it with confidence and belief that it can exist is also what grows it.
Yeah. And we're aspiring to have our dreams come true. Every day you can do one little step towards whatever it is. So I hope this is helping people. And I hope that, it's almost like there's exercises in it. Like you need to write down what your dreams are. And maybe today or sometime this week before the next episode, you should go out there, right? We should go out there and share our dream with somebody that you trust that's not going to like slam you down.
And say it with complete conviction and belief.
Yep. And like I always say, we deserve to thrive. You're not entitled to have somebody do it for you, but you are entitled. You have the right, I think, to thrive in the world. You just have to do what it takes to do it. Not just survive, do something.
And you get to choose it.
Yes. That's scary. I'm sure he's going to go into that next.
Well, and even just the whole, it's no one's obligated to do anything that they don't want to do. He talks about how you can develop a person and you can make it available if they choose it, but they don't choose it. But you don't have to be attached to whether or not they choose it. It's not your fault if they don't choose it.
Right.
But you can still do it because it moves you.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure that this does not resonate to everybody. This is a very unique. Otherwise, how come everybody's not talking about this book right now? Right. So. All right, chapter 6, done.
Mwah!
All right, see you later, Megan. See you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Rich and Raw. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated.